What up, Whisper Nation? We are back at it. This is week 3 waiver wire. We're going to let you know who you need to add, who you need to drop right here on the Fantasy Whispers.
Right here.
What's up, Whisper Nation? I hope you guys had a great week 2 and you avoided a lot of those injuries. Man, Travis, we had a lot. But today, we are going to be breaking down all of this week's waiver wire adds and drops based on your article, Travis, at Big Trav. You can find him on Twitter, or you can find his article either in the link in the description below, or just go on over to fantasywhispers.com and the article will be up there as well. You can find me at Johnny Game Time on Twitter, or Johnny_Game Time on Twitter, and you can find us on social media. Just go to the Fantasy Whispers. Travis.
Yeah, search us up. Find us out there. What's going on, Johnny?
Dude,
a bloodbath on Sunday, man. Just so many injuries. It's kind of concerning. It's definitely something we honestly could have projected. Summy are part of the team. You guys see him on the matchup show, and man, we actually probably should have expected this given the lack of. So maybe we're in for a roller coaster of a year. Maybe this is just the iceberg. A scary thought given how many marquee CMC, Saquon Barkley, Raheem Mostert, Monte Adams, Cortland Sutton, Michael Thomas, of course, still hurt. Just so many marquee players. George Kittle, like so many big names that were on the top of your draft boards. AJ Brown, Kenny Golladay, like all these guys just piling up. So what does that mean? That means we knew this could happen, right? We knew with the COVID offseason, we would have to be like water and adapt. And then part of that is making moves, making trades. But the bigger part is the waiver wire. You've got to be active on the waiver wire. You've got to make a lot of transactions. You got to be willing to pick up guys. But Johnny, I love what we're doing here now. And we're giving them perspective. We're giving Whisper Nation perspective on not only who to pick up, but who to drop. And so I love to get into this. We'll give a couple from a few running backs, a few wide receivers, and then maybe a quarterback and a tight end. And if you guys want the full thing, like Johnny said, head over to the fantasywhispers.com, get the article there. But yeah, let's get started with it.
Yeah, this is just week 3 waiver wire. We have a long season ahead. So if you are just tuning into this first show, hit that bell, hit that subscribe button so you get notified anytime we drop new content, which is pretty much daily. Our whole goal here is to win you a championship in your league, as well as have fun and exactly, and build up that community. So if you like doing that, hit that subscribe button. All right, Travis. Let's not keep them waiting any longer. I know they're like, we need to get a replacement for my CMC, for my Saquon. So let's dive into the number 1 running back waiver wire option for you in your eyes is who?
So every week, Johnny, we do this. We're going to do this. We're going to highlight the article a little bit. But just to break down the article, what I do here, I list them in priority that I would add them on my roster. If I were in your shoes. And that doesn't have to add the running back above the wide receiver. You have a situation where you need wide receiver depth more than you need running back. Always understand your roster and what your needs are. I just put running backs first in the article because they tend to be valuable position in fantasy football. So with that being said, we're going to start with running backs here. And like I said, I try to rank them accordingly. Priority, and my top priority running back this week is none other than Darrell Henderson. Johnny, my love for Darrell Henderson is no secret to you. We had Darrell Henderson on our rookie show, his profile on our rookie show last year when he came out of Memphis, and boy, did I love what I saw on tape. If you want to get lost in you, go watch Darrell Henderson Memphis highlights. You will love it. But he actually was called upon in this hot hand approach by Sean McVay on Sunday, rushing 12 times for 81 yards and a touchdown. He also added 2 catches for 40 yards on 3 targets. He increased his week 1 snap percentage, which was 7%, to 42% in week 2. I really like him as the top ad above some of these other guys because I think eventually the hot hand is going to turn into guy in this offense. I just project that being the situation. I think it should be Cam Akers based on the way he profiles as a running back. Cam Akers got hurt in this game, and he left the game, and then they called upon Darrell Henderson, and he got it done for them. So I have to think that Darrell Henderson is going to get the call again this week against the Bills. Not a great matchup, but if he continues to power through that passing game in this offense, we've seen what a Todd Gurley can do back-to-back years.
Well, speaking about that, it came out this morning that rookie Cam Akers separated rib cartilage during Sunday's win. So that is very, very painful. We'll see what they might do if he gives it a go, but certainly like the Darrell Henderson, he looked good, and Brown also a little banged up in that game as well. All right, Travis, I want to talk about your second guy here because maybe not a lot of people remember what value he brought to the Seahawks a few years ago, but he is no stranger to a waiver wire article, and that is running back Mike Davis of the Carolina Panthers, who is just rostered on 6% of Yahoo leagues. You have him as your second biggest waiver wire priority here at the running back position this week. Want to break this down for us? Tell us what you're seeing, what you're liking, what you expect from Mike Davis for fantasy owners.
Yeah, so obviously we talked about all these marquee injuries, Johnny, and one of those marquee injuries, of course, was Christian McCaffrey. After his second touchdown pulled up, looked like he rolled his ankle. The word is now 4 to 6 weeks at the minimum. And so they then leaned on Mike Davis for the rest of this game. And in the rest of that game, Davis had 8 catches on 8 targets for 74 yards. You look at CMC's usage in 1.5 games, only 7 catches on 9 targets for only 67 yards. We're talking about Mike Davis coming in and outproducing Christian McCaffrey in less time.
Who?
And now look, yeah, exactly, Mike Davis. So I would just say that I think this proves to you, and we saw him have a season with the Seahawks where he caught 34 balls. We know Mike Davis is we know this is sustainable, I should say, this in the passing game. So what it's interesting to see, and if you're a CMC owner, you're kind of livid, like this is what happened. Like,
right.
But if you're a Mike Davis, if you're interested in Mike Davis, this is something that makes him interesting. My only problem, and the only reason he's not ahead of Darrell Henderson for me in this article, is because at that 4 to 6 week timeline, when CMC comes back, this is CMC's backfield, 100%. So I would say that maybe Davis works in a little more, but it's still CMC. So the season line upside for me with Darrell Henderson is a little bit longer. But look, if you're the CMC, you have CMC on your roster, maybe you pick up Mike Davis so you stay afloat for those weeks. And I wouldn't be opposed to spending a good amount of your waiver budget on him. It just depends on that roster construction, right? It's that we'll get into like who we drop here, but like that's what you have to make those, right?
Right. So before we get into the who you would drop for these players, I want to dive into one more player here, Travis, and then we'll mention some players you might drop for them. But
perfect.
This is a running back that it's all about opportunity, and throughout the entire offseason, we had been talking about throughout our drafts about whether or not to take which running back in the 49ers backfield we should take in our drafts. And we kept saying, let's go with the one that has the least draft capital invested, and that was Jerick McKinnon. And all of a sudden, week 3 comes around, and he's looking at a really big opportunity here. What do you like about Jerick McKinnon this week? What do you like about Jerick McKinnon moving forward?
A little bit of a story here. Well, first we'll start off with, if Sunday was the devastating injury day, then this Jets-Niners game was probably the most devastating injury game. And that's because you saw Nick Bosa, Jimmy G, Kevin Coleman, Raheem Mostert all go down with injuries, right, in this exact game. And so what did that do? It gave Jerick McKinnon more opportunity. There was a 3rd and 31 in which Jerick McKinnon ran for 55 yards. And so we saw a situation where the Jets defense was just a gaping hole for them to run through, and this is exactly what happened. So I like McKinnon because he's a 95th percentile or better in a lot of his agility, speed scores. This is a guy that Shanahan brought in 2 years ago from the Vikings to be their guy. They paid him a lot of money. They kept him in the wing. They kept him ready and waiting. And he battled through a couple injuries, but he's looked good, Johnny, in 2 games. He's looked healthy, explosive, and he looked ready. And I will tell you right now, if the Niners have been injured everywhere else, where they haven't been, where they've been the most effective is out of the running back position. Mostert bust 2 touchdowns, 1 receiving, 1 rushing in both games. And so that just means I like Jerick McKinnon to plug and play in a very, a position that needs a lot of, I would say this team needs a lot of playmakers right now, and they're going to get it from the running back position. I think a lot's going to be put on Jerick McKinnon's plate exactly this week. So that's why he comes in at 3rd, because Mostert could only miss 1 week. It's a mild knee sprain, so we don't really know. But I would say right now that Jerick McKinnon has the opportunity to really smash this weekend against the Giants.
All right, Travis, so those are your top 3 running backs you got. So let's give a couple of running backs that you would potentially drop for those players, or a couple of players that you might consider dropping. Would you drop Jordan Howard for any of these 3 options?
I would drop Jordan Howard for Darrell Henderson. And yeah, I would drop him for all 3. I would agree with that, yeah.
Okay.
To myself. I agree with myself.
I agree with myself. Would you drop Sony Michel after repeated games of diminishing carries, as well as Cam Newton taking the goal line carries away?
Yeah, I think the upside for Sony Michel is just not there. We don't see him used in the passing game. We knew this. We knew Cam Newton was the poacher of touchdowns, and he seems to be old Cam ever, just rushing in the red zone. Yeah.
All right, and I'll give 2 more. Would you drop Tyreek Cohen or Boston Scott, or both?
I would drop both of those.
Okay.
Miles Sanders looked to come in, looked healthy, looked to be the guy, and just dominate touches there. Tyreek Cohen, I understand the upside, especially in PPR, but I think that Darrell Henderson, Mike Davis, and McKinnon all have receiving upside that could really just cancel out any upside of Tyreek.
Okay. So that is for the running backs. We'll move on over to the wide receiver.
If you guys want more running backs, because there's plenty of more in the article, make sure you head over to the fantasywith.com, because I've got a list here of.
You got quite the long list. There is a lot. We didn't even get into.
Yeah, it varies. Yeah, it varies. I'll have guys and I'll have blurbs, and the larger the blurb, you're going to know that I really like that guy. Smaller is just going to be guys that you maybe want to take a look at as a.
All right, so we are going to jump over here into the wide receivers. We're going to give you the top 3 wide receiver pickups of the week, and then we'll give you a couple of wide receiver names that you could drop. And this would also go as well if you wanted one of those running backs and you have one of these wide receivers. Same thing would go for that. Or if you need a wide receiver and you have one of those running backs that we said to drop, we would do it for these players. So number 1 on your rankings here for your waiver wire column at the wide receiver spot, Travis, you have wide receiver Keelan Cole, who has come up through the depth chart. We know he's had some talent. He's had some flash plays in the past few years, but now he's finally starting to see the field on a consistent basis. But what are you liking about Keelan Cole, not only this week coming up, but moving forward? Is it going to be someone that fantasy owners can trust as a flex play for them?
Yeah, I think so. If you looked at week 1, he scored. He had 66% snap share. He bumped that up to 68% snap share. And while that's still second to DJ Shark, he actually, Johnny, in targets, that being Keelan Cole, with 12 through the first 2 weeks. Look, I think that DJ Shark is a buy low candidate, but we said all offseason the team is going to throw a ton. That's what made Minshew so interesting, right? And the reason is because they'll probably be down in a lot of games or battling back in a lot of games. Well, if that's the case, I think there is actually a situation where Keelan Cole could end up the Jaguars' lead target getter this year. Doesn't mean he outproduces DJ Shark, because I do think DJ Shark has more upside as the big play wide receiver. Keelan Cole should not be slept on here, and I think he has real season-long value. We have before when a team that needs to just throw the ball a ton throughout the year can produce 2 usable fantasy wide receivers. I wouldn't be shocked if Keelan Cole ended up in the late wide receiver 2 range, or early wide receiver 3 range for you going forward. So that's why I have him at the top of the list here, because I really do believe there's a path to success for him in long.
All right, here at your second waiver wire pickup for the wide receiver position, only rostering about 22% of Yahoo leagues. Kind of mind-blowing to me, considering the fact that in week 1, Travis, he saw 12 targets, and then in week 2, he saw 9 targets. Now, most wide receiver 1s on teams get those kind of targets, and this guy isn't even a wide receiver 1. So you want to break down your number 2 waiver wire wide receiver pickup of the week here?
Yeah, it's Russell Gage of the Atlanta Falcons, Johnny. As you mentioned, 22% rostered in Yahoo leagues. It's a little wild how this Atlanta Falcons team is rostered. The distribution of targets has gone through these 2 games. Matt Ryan has just been throwing the ball over the place. Would you believe it that Julio Jones is 3rd on the team targets? Right, just kind of a wild situation. Right.
Well, and then I was looking at too, even red zone targets. Julio only has 1 red zone target, and both Gage...
And it's from Russell Gage.
Yeah.
It's actually from Russell Gage throwing him the football.
So wild.
So you've got the sneaky RB plays, the trick plays, which, by the way, man, that ball was thrown perfectly. It was on Julio.
Beautiful. I mean, I will say that even from, the Giants stadium, you saw Sanu tweet out, hey, that was a good throw. I taught you well, young one.
Exactly. And so what does that remind you of? Russell Gage throwing the ball. It reminds you of Mohamed Sanu throwing the ball in that Falcons offense. And I'll tell you right now, Russell Gage is starting to remind me about of Mohamed Sanu in a lot of other ways, and being that slot receiver and being that key role in this offense. This team, that defense looks like they are going to throw a ton. Now, I don't think Julio is going to stay 3rd on the team in targets. It doesn't make sense that that's going to continue. And I think as Hayden Hurst gets more comfortable with Matt Ryan, you'll see target distribution flow that way too, which makes Russell Gage 2nd on my list, because his path, there's a lot more mouths to feed in Atlanta. And I think there will be games where it's going to be more of a Julio and Ridley game, and maybe Hayden Hurst sneaks in there. But Russell Gage needs to be rostered, especially if you have a lot of, some of these, you had a Cortland Sutton injury to your team. You have a Michael Thomas injury on your team. You need to take a look at Russell Gage and see what's happening. Plus, if Calvin Ridley or Julio Jones goes down, Russell Gage will vault into a really, really profitable wide receiver. But I like him as my 2nd wide receiver.
All right. We are going to dive into... Okay, so this 3rd guy here, Travis, is getting opportunity because of an injury. He had a great training camp, and in fact, he was the MVP of this team's training camp, which might surprise you considering they have a lot of fantasy stars on this roster, and yet none of them were as talented during camp as wide receiver Tre'Quan Smith, who looked great yesterday against the Las Vegas Raiders, or last night versus the Raiders. So, Travis, tell the people, tell Whisper Nation why they should get excited about Tre'Quan Smith, not only for this upcoming week, but potentially as a season-long flex option if he continues to show the potential that he showed last night.
Yeah, what's interesting here is, Drew Brees actually said in the offseason, if there's a breakout coming on our team, it's Tre'Quan Smith. Like, I don't play fantasy, but if I did, I'd pick up Tre'Quan Smith, which, if you remember, when Michael Thomas was first coming out, Sean Payton says, I don't play fantasy, but if I did, I would pick up Michael Thomas. Yeah. And so it's kind of funny that both of these guys are talking him up. So you kind of, perks your ears up, you listen a little bit to that. Everybody was wondering, Johnny, without Michael Thomas, who would get the bump? And I think the smart answer is Alvin Kamara, and he did. He got 9 targets, right? But then people were saying Emmanuel Sanders or Jared Cook. Jared Cook with 5 targets, only 2 catches. Emmanuel Sanders with 3 targets, only 1 catch. It was Tre'Quan Smith. 7 targets, 5 catches for 86 yards last night. And here's the deal. He's 3rd on my list, and he could honestly be 4th because I don't know how long the Michael Thomas. And as soon as Michael Thomas is back, know it's going to be the Michael Thomas show. That's what this guy does. He soaks up those targets. But don't sleep on Tre'Quan Smith. Like you said, having some flex appeal down the gate. The only concern I have is once Michael Thomas is back, Drew Brees does not look good pushing the ball down the field. That's where I have concern about Tre'Quan Smith. So my sneaky next pick would be Tim Patrick of the Denver Broncos. I want to throw that name out there. He would be fourth behind Tre'Quan Smith for me. But take a look at Tim Patrick if you need it, because I think he could be a big play threat with Cortland Sutton out of the picture for Broncos.
All right. So speaking of, we gave, we got a bonus. You got a bonus wide receiver in there. If you want to read more about these players or why you should pick them up, or you want to see the full list, make sure you head on over to thefantasywhisperers.com or check the link in the bio or the description, and you do the article there. But Travis, these are great and all. Picking up guys is fun, but you have to make the difficult decision on who to drop. Yeah. So I'm gonna just fire a couple of names at you. You tell me if you would drop them or not for any of those three or four players that we just talked about, right? All right. So I'm gonna give you Anthony Miller. Would you drop Anthony Miller for any of?
I would drop Anthony Miller for the top two, Keelan Cole and Russell Gage. I probably would do it for Tre'Quan Smith as well, but not for Tim Patrick. I would keep on to Anthony Miller there. So the top three, yeah, but that the cutoff would be.
All right, I would agree with that. Christian Kirk.
I still think the reason I just want to add, I still think that we are a few games away from seeing Nick Foles.
Yeah,
I do think that happens, and if that happens, Anthony Miller will have value. But it might be a situation where you could drop him now and pick him up later because he might not be able
to. Sure. Christian Kirk. You drop Christian Kirk for any of these?
I would drop Christian Kirk for Keelan Cole and Russell Gage. I would hold on to him for the rest, but it seems to be the Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins show. And what I mean by that is obviously DeAndre Hopkins, and then Kyler Murray's running it. So that seems to be the situation. It's frustrating Kenyon Drake owners, even though he's getting a lot of the volume. It's definitely frustrating some Christian Kirk guys. But they also have not had the stiffest of competition. So let's see when they get in a game against a team they're going to have to throw on, and then I think
which might not be until week 6, but against Dallas. But it's I for me personally, I wouldn't mind dropping Christian Kirk for Russell Gage or Keelan Cole as well. I would agree with you there. Tre'Quan, I'm on the border of it. I think some flashes of being more targeted or heavily involved, especially over the next few weeks. I think Christian Kirk could probably sit on your waiver wire, and then you could kind of like you were talking about Anthony Miller there. All right, Sammy Watkins. What should people do with Sammy Watkins? Should they drop him for one of these guys? Keep him? He got injured. There's not a lot of information yet out on his extent or if he'll be out for a while. What do you think?
I don't know. That is such a tough one for me because I do believe that Sammy Watkins has a role when he's healthy in the offense. I would probably drop Sammy for Keelan Cole. I don't know if I'd drop him for Russell Gage because it's very similar. It's an offense that passes a lot and that he could be a part of that, but still not the very first option. Cole, I think, has this outside shot to maybe take over and be the number one. I mean, the chemistry he seems to show with Minshew seems to be there. So I would actually say yes to Keelan Cole, dropping Sammy, but no to Russell Gage.
Okay, and then I'll just 3 more. You tell me out of the 3, I want you to tell me one of them you would keep, and the other 2 that you would probably drop. Well, if you want to drop all 3, that's fine. All right, Deshaun Jackson, Jalen Reagor, or Mike Williams. Would you cut any of these 3 for Keelan Cole, Gage, Smith, or Tim Patrick?
I'd be okay cutting Jalen Reagor and Deshaun Jackson for Keelan Cole and Russell Gage. I wouldn't cut them for Tre'Quan Smith. Just once again, I think Tre'Quan Smith is that rental. Don't know like without him. So both the Philly receivers can go because I do kind of think they eat into each other's upside. As long as one is still healthy, the other one is not going to fully do. Want them to. That line has just not been as good as we want it to be. And the third one was, Johnny, I'm sorry.
Mike Williams.
So this one's tough. I would hold on Mike Williams only because I don't know. I think that beyond logic, Anthony Lynn is actually going to put Tyrod back into this lineup, make him the starter, and then Mike Williams becomes, they're saying he's healthier now than he's ever been this season. And we know that Tyrod Taylor pushes the ball down the field. I really liked Mike Williams coming into this game if Tyrod was the starter against Kansas City. Did not work that way. It's a little bit more volatile, but I would keep Mike Williams over those.
Now that one's tough for me because, you have a situation where everyone sees that it should be the rookie because he can move the ball, but when he came in, you saw Mike Williams only had 4 targets. Now, it was his first game, so he's not really pushing it down. Mike Williams is a very interesting one to me. I'm on the fence. I think ultimately
it's so interesting how when Tyrod Taylor's in the lineup, this becomes like an old Buffalo Bills team, where you push the ball down the field to a deep shot wide receiver, and you dink and dunk to the tight end. You don't throw to the running back. If Justin Herbert was in, you've got the old school Chargers,
right,
and you've got Eckler and Keenan Allen being heavily involved, and then Mike Williams and Hunter Henry kind of in the dark. So I would just it's a little more volatile than maybe you'd like, but I think Mike Williams' upside if Tyrod Taylor is the starter, and I think the Chargers just want to play it safe with Herbert and not get him too flustered at the beginning of his career. But I just liked what I saw going up.
All right, Travis, we will get Whisper Nation out on, I just want to touch on a couple of tight ends and a couple of quarterbacks. Don't need a lot of explanation. If they want the explanation, they could go and read the article. But I just want to touch, if you need tight ends, you want to, 2 of your favorite tight ends to pick up on the week and 2 quarterbacks.
Yeah, my absolute favorite, I'm just going to tier these out. My number 1 tight end on the week, and I think he's in a tier by himself, is Mo-Alie Cox of the Indianapolis. Rostered in 1% of Yahoo leagues. This is a guy that we've been calling for a breakout for a while. He's so big, athletic, former basketball player. Is now playing with Phillip Rivers, who we know loves to target the tight end, and playing in a team that just lost their slot receiver in Paris Campbell. And so we see this team actually going maybe more run-heavy, dishing it to the tight end, and he had 111 yards on just 5 catches, 6 targets. I think Mo-Alie Cox should be added in a lot of leagues. My second tight end, Johnny, is the guy, not Amari Cooper, Gallup, or CeeDee Lamb, or even Ezekiel Elliott led the Dallas Cowboys in targets from Sunday against those Falcons. It was Dalton Schultz. So we knew that we wanted Blake Jarwin to break out in this offense as a tight end, but it seems like Dalton Schultz has an opportunity. 10 targets, 88 yards and a touchdown. He did put the ball on the ground with a fumble, but I like what I saw to Dalton Schultz. I think that he could be added and kind of started.
Would you
offense?
Would you drop Rob Gronkowski for those 2?
Absolutely. You could have dropped Rob last week.
Would you drop Austin Hooper for one of those 2?
I would.
Would you drop?
I think
go a little higher.
What I've seen out of Hooper kind of scares me. It looks like the Browns are actually throwing to the tight end. Then they threw to Njoku week 1. So, I think that they maybe just got Hooper and paid him for blocking in this run game.
Yeah.
It's really looking like a situation that could be the.
All right. And then let's do one quarterback here that you would pick up if you need a streamable quarterback this week. Who are you going with?
Oh, this isn't even a streamer anymore, Johnny. This guy should be locked in as the maybe second late round quarterback of the year. Cam is probably the first late round quarterback coming into after 2 weeks, but Gardner Minshew, baby, the Jacksonville Jaguars, rocking that headband, rocking those jorts. The bottom line, Johnny, he's got 6 touchdowns in 2 games. Tennessee was not a good matchup. I remember not playing Minshew, even though I thought, I wanted to because it was fun because he was playing Tennessee, and he still threw for 3 touchdowns, got them 30 points. I think Minshew is pretty much matchup proof unless it's like Pittsburgh. You're going to be rolling Minshew out a lot more times than you aren't because he's confident, he's accurate, and he takes care of the football. And I think this offense is out to prove that they're not just here to tank. So I love Minshew's story. He's actually putting it to fantasy, putting it into fantasy production as well.
All right. Would you drop Carson Wentz for him?
Yes.
Would you?
Did.
Would you drop?
Did drop Carson Wentz in a
Would you drop Drew Brees for him?
Yes. Unfortunately, I think if the Saints want to win football games, it's going to be on the Runningbcks and dink and dunk football, and that's just not the had in the past.
All right. One more. I'll give you Matthew Stafford. Would you drop Matthew Stafford, Gardner Minshew?
I would hold on Matthew Stafford because I want to see what he looks like with Kenny Golladay back in the lineup. The word is Kenny G will be back this week. If Kenny G gets there and opens things up, I think we can get back to 5,000-yard Matt Stafford. That's what you want in this offense. So hold a little bit on Stafford. But if you got the bench space, you may want Gardner as backup.
All right, there you have it. Big Travie gives you his list of guys that you need to go pick up on your waiver. Once again, if you want a full list of all of this week's waiver wire options and why you should go get them, head on over to the fantasywhispers.com. You can read that article, or it'll be in the link to that will be in the description below. Well, make sure you subscribe to our channel, hit that bell. For the Fantasy Whispers, that's Big Travie, at Big Travie TFW. I'm Johnny_GameTime on Twitter. We are the Fantasy Whispers, and we're out. Peace. Good luck with those waiver wires.
Hope you get your claims.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Whisperers podcast. You can hear more from John and Travis on Google Play, SoundCloud, and iTunes. You can also follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at TF Whisperers.